This is the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services.
Recently, Abe had the opportunity to travel to Mar-a-Lago for a one-on-one conversation with Donald Trump Jr. They talked about family, the value of hard work, and the importance of doing what you love. Here's Abe with Don Jr.
Tell our listeners, something about your day-to-day routine that people would genuinely be surprised to find out is actually normal.
Wow. Oh, my day-to-day routine is probably not normal because, I guess it started off fairly normal, in the workforce, going to an office and, doing that. Now with my father as the boss, it's a little different. You're, there before everyone. You got to stay later than everyone. But it was sort of interesting. COVID really changed everything. Yep. We were used to going to New York City office buildings, and then all of a sudden you couldn't even go. And obviously being in hotels and in real estate, that was not an awesome time, especially since no one could travel. And so it's like, well, now you got to figure out what else you're going to be doing. And so I think one of the things that actually, the good thing that came out of COVID was I realized, you don't actually have to go to an office once you hit a certain level. I think it's really important when you're young to get the sort of foundation and the discipline of that. But once you hit a certain level, and depending on the business that you're in, I was like, wow, I can actually do 90% of what I need to do from my iPhone anywhere in the world. And so when you have sort of the hobbies that I have and the passions that I have in the outdoors, Starlink also opened up a whole nother, interesting thing. So, I've done, board meetings from a yurt in Mongolia. And I guess it's very unconventional in the sense that, now I sort of do what I want from where I want. But, with my dad, it was always, it was a very sort of strict early upbringing when it came to that. You were the first guy in the office. You worked hard. You did that. And, as I mentioned in the speech earlier, he had us, working construction jobs because if you're going to build a building, you better know how long it takes to actually do it. Not theorize about it, not talk what it should probably be, but actually having done it. So I think that, that notion that, Trump kids grew up on construction sites and those were probably the, the foundational leanings of our business education probably would surprise most.
Yeah, definitely respect that. Like actually getting out on the construction site and learning from the construction workers, I think you just said.
His logic was, just because you think, someone tells you something should be, if you've done it yourself, you know when you're being lied to, when you're being manipulated, when you're getting taken advantage of, and you better know. Right.
My wife and I run our own retirement planning firm, and you just recently got engaged. Congratulations, by the way. How do you and your fiance support each other's dreams and passions?
Well, she's just been incredible. I literally figured I was not going to do this again, starting over again at 48, and I already have 5 kids. Right. It's I feel like I've done my part in terms of replacements, but when you have someone in your corner that just backs you fully, just adds value every step of the way. It's that she's this just beautiful, brilliant, funny person, but also a kind of killer in her own right. I mean, I've literally had it, her in the room, we're talking deals and stuff like that, and she hears something and she's like, "Why don't you guys do this?" And it's wow, that just literally was $100 million value add that no one even thought about. It was sort of probably a pretty aggressive ask, even at the time, but she just saw the window and does it. So no, she's just she's been an incredible teammate, which again, why. I would think about starting this thing over again. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's amazing. We work with people primarily 55 to 75, a lot of them that are just about to retire. Yeah. Things are always going on in any calendar year, wars, elections, and all these things. People are a little naturally, uneasy about the markets right now. Yeah. To that 60 or 65-year-old listening to this right now, what would you tell them about the markets and their investments that could maybe give them some confidence?
Well, listen, I mean, I think if you're looking at, the S&P and you're looking at some of the indices, you have incredible performance. I think, from a longer term perspective, so many of the things that this administration and my father are trying to do are really long-term plays, right? You hear about the chaos on a day-to-day basis, and that's sort of life. But the reality when you look at the even the inward investment that's coming into America, getting other countries to build here, the production, the manufacturing, it's well, all those things happen. Oh, I haven't felt it in my wallet yet. Yeah, because they got to build a factory to start the manufacturing. To do, these are things that candidly, the person who's probably going to get the credit for it in the end, at least at the time, is going to be the president in 28 or the president in 32, when these things get there and they really turn on the economic engine of the United States. So I think you got to look at all of the things that are happening and realize, well, just because you have the press release doesn't mean you're going to feel, we sort of live in an instant gratification society. People, they want it now. And that's not how it works in the real world. And so I think my father's one of the few people in politics who is really playing a long game. Not making a bad decision, at the expense of our children's future to get, to win an election in 2 weeks, but to do what's actually going to be right for 10, 20, 50 years. He's playing that long game, and I think that long game is going to be really important for America and our future. And so, I think whatever you see, when that stuff starts really maturing in a few years, that's when you're going to see, the net benefit of all of that.
To the one person in life or maybe in business in general, what's one piece of advice you could give to that person that's really looking to get ahead and succeed? My
father always said it with us, which is like, you're never going to be good at something you don't love doing. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot. I went to, a Wharton School of Finance, and, at the time, investment banking was the biggest thing in the world. And all these guys were like, I'm going to be an investment banker. I was like, do you really want to be? He's like, no, I just want to make a lot of money. It's like, but like 5 years into that, when they're working 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, they just realized, like, this is not for me. And, those guys were never going to perform as well as someone who actually really wanted to be there. So, it sort of doesn't matter so much what it is you choose to do. If you really have a true passion for it, you'll do it better. And then it's not really like work. Like, my father works harder than any human being in the world, I think, but it never feels like work to him. He's having fun. It's like his work is his passion, is his hobby, and his vocation. And so, that changes the dynamic, because so much of that is all in your head. It's all mental. If you feel good about what you're doing and you want to actually be doing it, you're just going to do it better. You're going to dedicate the time. You're going to put in whatever it takes to win. And that's a big differentiator that a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, this is the place to make the most money right now. And it's like, well, if you hate it, you're going to do that for 40 years. It's probably not a great idea.
So love what you do.
Love what you do.
Donald Trump Jr., thank you so much for joining us on The Retirement Key. It's a pleasure to have you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
A big thank you to author and vice president of the Trump Foundation, Donald Trump Jr., for taking some time to sit down with our founder, Abe Abich. And of course, thank you for joining us here. Remember that you can hear more from Abe by subscribing to The Retirement Key wherever you download your podcasts, and connect anytime at theretirementkey.com or click on the links we've got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich. To learn more about Abich Financial Services, visit theretirementkey.com and join Abe for his radio show, The Retirement Key, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m.
Abish Financial Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and the content of this communication has not been approved or verified by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or by any state securities authority. The information contained in this material is intended to provide general information about Abish Financial Wealth Management and its services. It is not intended to offer investment advice. Investment advice will only be given after a client engages our services by executing the appropriate investment services agreement. Information regarding investment products and services are provided solely to read about our investment philosophy and our strategies.